Hey, welcome back everyone. So in the last video, we got our three fields set up, and then in this video, we're going to start by building out our flow. So let's click open the gear icon here and press setup. And I'm just going to navigate to the flow builder as we've done, dozens of time in the course so far. And we will create a new flow. And where I think we'll start out is by building the flow that will update the opportunities if the notes on one of the opportunities is updated. So basically what the flow is going to do is say, okay, the notes have been updated. Let's go propagate those changes to every single opportunity related to the same account. And I'm going to have you guess. This should be a pretty easy one. What type of flow should this be? Give you a second to think. And if you set a record trigger flow, you're right, because we're going to launch this when a record is created, updated, or deleted. And I'll press create. And so we get our configuration screen, and what object should this opportunity notes flow run on? Hopefully that wasn't too much of a challenge. It'll be the opportunity object. And then this is really important. I want to kind of challenge you to think about the trigger here. When the course is over and you don't have an instructor kind of helping you through certain challenges, it will be important for you to be able to think about how to configure your start elements. So with this particular flow, imagine what needs to happen in Salesforce, and maybe specifically what field needs to change on the opportunity for this flow to kick off. And maybe think about this trigger here as well. So maybe we'll start with the trigger. What trigger is probably best? I'll give you a second to think. I'm going to pick a record is updated because we only need to trigger this flow when an opportunity has its notes field updated. We don't really want this flow running when it's created. In fact, it would probably be bad if it did. So we'll just do the record is updated. And now it's time to configure the entry conditions. And this is kind of what I was talking about with it's like what field needs to be updated on the opportunity. And so hopefully you're kind of thinking along the lines of the fields that we created in the pre-work are the ones that have to get updated to trigger the flow. And so when we open up the conditions selection here, hopefully the field that you were thinking of was that opportunity notes field. And so I'll just scroll down and I'm going to select the opportunity notes field. And I'm going to say that it is changed, and we'll set that to true. And so there's probably a couple different ways that you could do this, but we'll start by just testing that the notes is changed equals true. And we'll use that to trigger the flow. So I will press done here, and now we have our flow kind of set up on the canvas. I'm going to press save just so we can get this saved early. I'll call it opportunity update opportunity notes. And so again, along the theme of having you think without the help of an instructor, because that's going to be really important once the course is over, once you've completed everything. I like to kind of think about flows when I'm building them myself and not necessarily teaching in reverse. So what I mean by that is we configured our start element. We know that the flow is going to kick off on an opportunity when the record's updated, and specifically when the opportunity notes field is changed. So to kind of complete the rest of the design, I like to skip all the way ahead and imagine what has happened in Salesforce once my flow has run and everything's perfect. And so if we think back to the requirements, the end result of the flow is that every other opportunity in Salesforce related to that account has been updated. And so that is helpful because it means at least two things are true. And this is where the design comes in. So if we are updating all the opportunities in Salesforce, we know that we have to do an update of some kind, right? So if I'll switch to the freeform layout here, we know that we're going to have at some point to do an update records. Secondly, if we're going to do an update, that means we probably had to find records at some point, right? So there's at least two operations. One, we have to find records, and two, we have to update the records. And so that already gives us insight into how to design our flow. We know that we're going to be finding and updating records. And if you had to think about the sequence there, it's unlikely that we would update the records first and then go find them. We would probably find the records and then go update them. And sure enough, that's how we're going to build this flow. So this little detour or digression is just a way of explaining that there's some design concepts that are helpful when you're not going through the course. And specifically, that would mean, just thinking about what happens after your flow runs and everything's perfect. And it's like, okay, we updated all the opportunities, and then reverse engineering what has to happen in your flow based on that perfect outcome. So I'll just switch it back to I'll leave it on the freeform layout. So let's start with the first element. And so that will be the get records. So we're going to go find Salesforce records and store their field values to use later in the flow. So I'll drag a get records to the canvas. And this is going to be the get records that gets related opportunities. So I'll just type that in there. And we are finding records of the opportunity object. And we have to set up some conditions here. And these will be, I guess, interesting or a point of discussion. So we know that we need to update all the opportunities that are related to the same account as the opportunity that kicked off our flow. So that's the first condition. And the way we'll do that is by saying that the account ID of the opportunities that we're going to find equals, and then we'll use that record global variable. So I'm going to click the value section and scroll down here to record opportunity. And this account ID is here, but I'm just going to scroll down and pick it here. So we're going to say the account ID equals is the same account as the one that kicked off our opportunity. I'm also going to add another condition, and this one is not so intuitive. I just know this from painful experience. And that condition is that the ID of the opportunity that we're looking for should not be the same as the current record. We don't need to update the current opportunities notes because we already did that. And the reason that I'm doing that, I'm just typing in ID here, and I'll scroll down and I'll select opportunity ID, is that there's something called recursion. But what could happen with this flow is that if our flow kicks off and we don't exclude the original opportunity, then our flow could kick off when the notes are changed. Our flow will then go update the notes, and then that update, because it updated the notes, will kick off the flow again. And so then the flow's like, oh, the notes have been updated. Let me go update the notes for all the opportunities, and then it will update the notes again. And it just kind of goes in this recursive loop, and that causes an error. So I have found that by adding this exclusion criteria of the ID not being the same as the one that's kicking off the flow, that you can avoid that problem. So the final thing that we need to do with our get records here is choose how many records to store. And again, going back to that reverse engineering, but we need to update multiple opportunities, right? We're not just updating a single opportunity. There could be one other opportunity related to the account, or there could be a dozen. So we need to account for that. And we're just going to do that by creating a record collection variable. So I'm going to select all records here, and I will press done. And so then we can connect our start element to our get records, and I will press save. And that'll be it for this video. So in the next video, we will move forward with dragging our loop to the canvas and building out sort of the update operation. And I'll see you there.